Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Law, SOL, Postgraduate Diploma in Criminal Justice, PGDCJ. MLE 016 Criminal Justice Research and Advocacy. Block 1 Criminal Justice Research. Unit 3 Reading Cases and Statutes. 3.1 Introduction. In doing any research in law including in the area of criminal justice, one has to base his research on either a particular or a group of legislations. Moreover, on many occasions a researcher has to refer to provision of India Constitution and constitutional cases relating to rights of the accused or of the victims. Moreover, a research in the area of criminal justice more often focused on the implementation process or an evaluation study of the respective study. Similarly, a research on criminal justice administration may be solely based on the reported cases of the superior courts. Besides, it is a general practice that the research will focus on the legislative on any particular field of criminal justice or criminology. Hence, we have to know how to read and use cases and statutes in criminal justice researches. 3.2 Objectives. By reading this unit, a researcher will be able to know the various types of statutes which may be used in researches. B. Know various sources from where the cases and statutes may be available. C. Understand the method of study of cases decided by the superior courts. D. Analyze the critical aspects of cases and statutes of cases and statutes. E. Identify areas of criminal justice where unreported cases may be used in the researches. 3.3 Sources of statutes. In any research in India, one has to look into our constitutional provisions as it stands today or as it was adopted by the Constituent Assembly in 1950. Sometimes in the course of research it becomes necessary to refer to the draft constitution. The official publication of the same is called Draft Constitution of India, 1948, which is available with the Controller of Publications, Government of India, New Delhi. The official copy of the Constitution of India is also available with the Office of the Controller of Publications, the copies of which also can be seen in the Supreme Court Library and in the Parliament Library. The government issues a new edition of the Constitution almost every 2 or 3 years, as there are amendments from time to time. For any relevant current statutes, i.e., bills, acts, rules, regulations, notifications and orders etc., are published in the Gazette of India. Not all sections of the Gazette are of use for criminal justice research. Only some of them may be relevant. The contents of Gazette of India are given below so as to give an idea as to what it contains. Besides Gazette of India, these are official publications containing all the acts in force in India, such as India Code and Acts of Parliament. India Code is kept up to date by issuing correction slips from time to time as per amendments of the respective acts. A new Diglot edition, Hindi and English, have been published. The Acts of Parliament is an official publication of Government of India containing all the acts passed in a particular year. There are many private publications in India which contain the central as well as state legislations. The most popular of them are All India Reporter, AIR, which has a section containing acts passed by Parliament from time to time. Moreover, the All India Reporter Ltd, Nagpur, had also published AIR Manual 45, which one can find all the acts passed by the Parliament which are still in force. Their arrangement is alphabetical. Is each volume. Also in each volume we find 2 tables, one arranged alphabetically and the other chronologically. A criminal justice researcher should consult contents relation to criminal laws only. State statutes. The state acts are published in their respective gazettes. For example, the acts passed by West Bengal Legislative Assembly are published in the Calcutta Gazette. There are also private publications of state legislations, e.g., West Bengal Acts and Rules. So, for 38 vols. Published. But quite often they are out of date and there is no system to keep these sets up to date. Subordinate legislations. All the statutory rules, orders, notifications issued by the Government of India and the state governments are published in the official gazettes of the respective governments. But two major defects of such publication of delegated or subordinate legislations, rules, in the official gazette are: first, there is no index in order to find out a statutory rule in order of a particular year, and the researcher has to scan through the entire pages of the gazette, and second, these is no table, any other method indicating references of the earlier statutory rules and orders. However, these is one official publication of Govt. of India, namely General Statutory Rules and Orders, which contains all the rules, orders and notifications of the central government which are is force. The arrangement in this set is subject-wise, i.e., subject matters of the parent acts, under which the rules have been framed. Offend government departments also published manuals from time to time giving the latest rules and notifications on their respective subject. For example, Central Excise Manual, Civil Services Manual, Customs Manual, Income Tax Manual, Foreign Exchange Manual, etc. Sometimes such manuals are also titled as Compendium, i.e., Compendium on Environmental Guidelines of the Environment Department, Govt. of WB. As regards rules and procedures of the Supreme Court and the High Courts framed and published their own rules and revised from time to time. If a researcher needs to know the history of a particular acts, he may go through the reports of Select Committee or Joint Select Committee of the Parliament which are published in the Gazette, Part 2, Section 2. The only materials available on the discussion on the bills passed by the Parliament are Lok Sabha debates and Rajya Sabha debates published since 1952 and available with the cent roller of publication. 3.4 Case laws and its sources. The legal system in India is based on common law system which was developed by the common law courts in England. Under this system the precedent and judge-made laws are very important aspects of any legal subject. Article 141 of the Constitution provides that the law declared by the Supreme Court is binding on all courts in India. Though these is no such facile as regard high courts, but the courts subordinate to the high courts are found by their decisions. As a result, doctrine of precedent has been well established in India. Therefore, any researcher in law, including criminal justice research, should know the judicial attitude in respective area of his or her research. This has necessitated the reporting of the judgments of the Supreme Court and High Courts is system manner. The reporting of case law in India may be discussed as under Official Reports. Federal Court Reports, 2 volumes, 1939-50. This is the official publication of the cases divided by the Federal Court, which was abolished with the setting up of the Supreme Court in 1950. Supreme Court Reports, since 1950, this is a monthly publication reporting cases decided by the Supreme Court. Indian Law Reports, this is an official publication which contains cases decided by various high courts in India after the name of the concerned high court, like ILR, Allahabad, ILR, Bombay, etc. Private Reports. All India Reports, AIR is the most commonly used law reports in India, apart from the Supreme Court and High Court seizes if contains many useful features such as table of cases cited and table of cases overruled or affirmed. It covers cases retentily. Reports on Supreme Court cases. These are some law reports exclusively devoted to the Supreme Court cases, such as Supreme Court Journal, published signed 1950 by Madras Law Journal Ltd, Supreme Court Cases, published signed 1969 by Eastern Book Co. Scales, published by National Law Review, New Delhi, and Judgment Today, published from Delhi. High Court reports, apart from the AIR. In almost each state we have at least one law report containing cases decided by the High Court of that state. It also covers acts, rules and notifications. Some of such reports of long standing are Allahabad Law Journal, Bombay Law Reporter, Calcutta Weekly Notes, and Madras Law Journal, etc. The All India Reporter, Nagpur, has also started a new publication called All India High Court Cases, since 1995. Specialized law reports. These law reports specialize in cases pertaining to particular branches of law. They report cases decided by the Supreme Court, High Courts. Some of these reports are Labor Law Journal, Labor and Industrial Cases, Criminal Law Journal, Income Tax Reports, Supreme Court Cases, Criminal, etc. A detailed account of the history of law reputing in India and various law reports earlier days is founded in the 14th Report of the Law Commission of India. History of cases. These are a few publications from which we may also get the history of a given case. They will help us to know the development of the relevant law on a particular legal issue by referring to other cases involved in the respective subject matter. Some examples of such publications are MLE, the subject noted index of cases, 3. Vol. 3rd 195. Madras Law Journal Ltd, Madras, SN. Bagga, All India Point noted. Index of overruled and reversed cases, 16 ed. 1962 Law Book Co. Allahabad, B. Krishna and S.K. Agrawal, subject noted digest of overruled and reversed cases. 1809 1961, revised by D.D. Sane 1962 Law Publishers, Allahabad, and P.J. Patel. Supreme Court Reference Citations, 1950-1975 Legal Research Bureau, Jamnagar. The last one is an Indian counterpart of Shepard's citation of USA. But these are not regular publications and hence we have to refer AIR for up-to-date study. 3.5 Foreign Cases and Statutes. No research can be complete without a comparative study of materials available in other countries. The countries with a similar legal system such as US, UK, Australia, Canada can be taken into consideration. The short information about the materials in these countries is given below. Australia. Acts of Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia, 1901-1950, 6 volumes. As amended till 1950, the 6th volume contains a subject index and alphabetical and chronological tables of statutes passed since 1901. Thereafter these is an annual volume published regularly. Commonwealth Statutory Rules 1901-1956, 5 volumes, after 1955 every year these is a volume which contains acts during the year and also selected proclamations, orders, etc. with table and index. Australian Law Journal, since 1927, has been reporting judgments of the High Court of Australia, the highest court of the country, and Privacy Council. The other law reports, Australia Acts, Australian Law Reports, Commonwealth Law Reports and Federal Law Reports, Australian Digest, etc. Canada. Revised Statutes of Canada, Canada Federal Court Reports, Canada Supreme Court Reports, Queen's Printer, Ottawa, contains all the acts in force in Canada. Acts of Parliament of Canada published annually which contains all the sectional legislations. The official publication of the Canadian Supreme Court decided cases is Canada Law Reports Supreme Court, 1875-1922, Reports of the Supreme Court of Canada, since 1923, the Communion Law Reports, Canada Law Book Co., Toronto, contains all The cases of all the Canadian courts started since 1912. Canadian Abridgment Courts. Cases decided by the Canadian courts from 1923, and there is an annual volume. Updating the digest. UK. Statutory materials. Official legislative material Statutes revised 9/1235-1948. It contains all the statutes in force at the end of 1948. Hawker Acts 06 Parliament of Scotland from 1424 to 1707 are caused by a separate publication called Acts of the Parliament of Scotland 1424-1707. After 1948 all the acts passed by British Parliament are published in Public General Act and Church Assembly measures. There is an annual publication, namely Index to Statutes in Force, HJSO, London, which all the statutes in force at the end of the previous year are collected and arranged alphabetically under subject headings. A researcher can find from the index references to the prohibitions relating to his subject. In our case, criminal laws. After 1948 a publication was started in UK, known as Annual Volumes of Statutory Instruments, which contains subordinate legislations like orders, rules, regulations, etc. The Index to Government Orders, published in alternate years, contains all rules, orders, regulations, etc. The matter is arranged alphabetically under subject headings. As regard private legislative material, we may mention Halsbury's Statutes of England and Halsbury's Statutory Instruments. These sets are kept up to date by Supplement and Loose Leaf Service respectively. Case Law UK. All England Law Reports, published since 1936, this is published in 4 volumes in each year. Law Journal Reports, 1822-1949, contain decisions of various courts. England. But merged with All England Law Reports in 1950. The Digest 06 England is an indispensable guide to researcher and contains reported cases of England and Wales. It also covers cases from Scotland, Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and other Commonwealth countries. Legal Encyclopedia is regarded as treasure house of knowledge on various legal subjects. The most important sets of encyclopedias is Halsbury's Laws of England. The entire law is divided into different legal topics. The arrangement is according to topics, alphabetical order. Generally a list of topics is given in the first volume of the set. This list to be gone through first to ascertain as to under what topic the subject of any search can be found. After that the researcher should take that particular volume in which that subject has been dealt with. USA. Statutory material. Statutes at large, it contains statutes of U.S. and published every year after each session of the Congress. The official publication of U.S. is United States Code, containing all the acts in force, housing 50 titles. Among the private publications, United States Code annotated is most important one. It also divided into 50 titles and kept up to date by annual pocket parts and new volumes. West Publishing Company, Minnesota. A researcher will be very much benefited with its annotations and historical background notes. Among the other private publications of Law Reports, American Law Reports. Lawyers Cooperative Publishing Co., New York, covering both federal courts as well as state courts. U.S. Supreme Court Reports, both published by Federal Reporter. Federal Rules Decisions and Federal Supplement are published by West Publishing Co. Courts Decisions of lower federal courts and dealing with federal rules of civil and criminal procedure. These are 2 law digests, namely, American Digest System, West Publishing Co., and U.S. Supreme Court Digest, 20 volumes, Lawyers Corporation Pub. Co., very much popular in USA. As regard Encyclopedia of Law and Cases in USA, we may note the names of American in USA. We may note the names of American Jurisprudence, Lawyers Cooperative, Ed Corpus Juris and Corpus Juris Secundum. American Law Book Co. These are kept up to date by issuing annual supplements. 3.6 Importance of Case Laws. The legal practitioner, judge, researcher of law after involved in search of law to be applied to a case in hand, because no lawyer knows more than a relatively infinitesimal part of the law, nor does any judge. But they have to know how to find law and where to find law. Lawyers draw relevant proposition of law to be applied in a case in hand from two important sources: the judgments made by higher courts, i.e., the precedents, and the legislations. One cannot find out a law applicable to a fact situation covered by a single source of law. Often the legal proposition to be applied in a fact situation cannot be drawn from a particular source of law. A sound knowledge 3 in substantive and procedural laws enables a lawyer to identify relevant facts of a case from a mountain of facts made available to him by a client. On the identification of relevant facts and the law to be applied thereto, a lawyer uses his logic to correlate them. A precedent is primarily a case law which serves as an authority for deciding a similar case. In many instances, case laws have played an important part in the interpretation of statutes. Case law consists of the three rules and principles stated and acted upon by judges in giving decisions. In a system based on case law, a judge in a subsequent case has to decide the case before him in the same way as that in which the previous case was decided, unless he can give a good reason for not doing so. That means, cases must be decided the same way when their material facts are the same. Of course, it does not require that all the facts should be the same. Case law consists of the rules and principles stated and acted upon the judges in giving decisions. The case laws are the necessary subject matter in any doctrinal inquiry, because the law declared by Supreme Court and High Courts binding the subordinate courts. The Indian law is largely a system of case law. That is, the decision in a particular case constitute precedent. According to the doctrine of precedent, it is not everything, and by a judge when giving judgment, that constitutes precedent, but only the reason for the decision given in the judgment constitute precedent. So, the reason stated in the judgment of an appeal case becomes a necessary subject matter of inquiry and analysis by a lawyer. Case laws are the secondary source of data to the researchers. While reading the case laws, the researcher may come across a problem of legal issue and he can form a hypothesis, run an empirical inquiry, and thus conduct the research. Case laws are the evidential source for the arguments in deductive analysis. The lawyers, judges, and researchers use case laws for their logical argumentation. Thus the case laws become the documentary source of data in legal studies. 3.7 Analysis of cases and statutes. The major research in law is investigation of cases in an identified problem area. Establishment of trends of a law is not an easy task. To ascertain the exact fact and nature of fact are extremely complex problems. The proceedings in courts more often than not revolve around questions of fact. Particular criminal trial battles is courts are won in the basis of as to which party is able to establish its claims regarding fact. According to William J. Grode and Paul K. Hatt, a fact is regarded as an empirically verifiable observation. The fact could be a behavior, an attitude, a law. The basic theme of doctrinal research on criminal justice is: what is the basis for accepting or rejecting something as a fact? This aspect is criminal to the electric is a criminal case. How are facts established? There are the common basis for establishing facts. 1. Authority. 2. Infusion, and 3. Logic. But these methods may lead us to false conclusion. Therefore, a scientific method has developed for establishing facts. Systematically collects data, undertake tests for their internal consistency, and subjects them to empirical examination. Thus, scientific information is based on reliable and valid observation. Systematically collects data, undertake tests for their internal consistency, and subjects them to empirical examination. Thus, scientific information is based on reliable and valid observation. After validation of facts, the interpretation of cases has to be undertaken by the researcher. But before that, research break down the data into constituent parts in order to obtain answers to research question or hypothesis. Taking an example from judicial arena, suppose researcher hypothesizes a relation between poverty and crime. He collects the sociological facts of the persons convicted in the cases during a period of time from the records of courts cases, and then he must so order, freak down, and manipulate the data that he can obtain an answer to the research question or hypothesis. Taking an example from judicial arena, suppose a researcher hypothesizes a relation between poverty and crime. He collects other sociological facts of the persons convicted in theft cases during a period of time from the records of courts cases, and then he must so order, break down, and manipulate the data that he can obtain an answer to the research question. A research may also analyze the attitude of the judges. A judge, while pronouncing a judgment in a particular case, not only comments about the land and circumstances, facts, of that case, but also tries to generalize ratio by linking it to the broader social and historical issues relating to that particular society. He may give obiter dicta that may have implications for conduct of social behavior and as to how problems should be tackled at a macro level. Clark Celtis et al. Research Methods in Social Relations, 306 New York, 1964. 3.8 A summary. Most of the researches in law as well as criminal justice are based on either study of judgments of superior courts, on evaluative study 06 any statute, trends of researches in India in the field of law general and CJS in particular, are doctrinal research based on analysis of cases. Thus, researcher has to know sources of statutes and cases. The sources of statutes are bills, acts, rules, regulation, notifications, orders, etc., published in the Gazette of India and respective gazettes of state governments. Along with these statutes, a researcher always has to consult up-to-date version of the Constitution of India published by Controller of Publication. Besides Gazette of India, the say are official publications containing all the acts in force in India, namely India Code and Acts of Parliament. However, these are private publications in this regard, like A+R, AIR, All India Reporter, and AIR Manual, which contain central as well as state legislations. As regards rules and regulation, the official publication of Govt. of India is known as General Statutory Rules and Orders, which contains all the rules, orders and notifications of the central Govt. In addition, Govt. Dept. Sometimes published manuals on respective, sometimes published manuals on respective department containing rules and regulation of the respective dept. For researching of the researcher is to consult reports of Select Committee, Standing Committee and Lok Sabha debates and Rajya Sabha debates published by Controller of Publication, Govt. of India. Regarding sources of case laws, these are both official reports as well as private reports. As regards official reports, we may mention the names of Federal Court Reports, 1939-50, Supreme Court Reports, since 1950, Indian Law Reports. But most commonly used law reports in India is AIR. The other popular reports in Supreme Court cases or Supreme Court cases, scales, judgment. Today, as regards exclusive High Court cases in particular state. The long standing reports are Allahabad Law Journal, Bombay Law Reporter, Calcutta Weekly Notes, Madras Law Journals, etc. All India Reporter, Nagpur, has also started a new publication called All India High Court Cases since 1995. These are some publications from which researcher may get history and development of the relevant law and a particular legal issue by referring to other cases involved in the respective matter. Examples of such publications are the subject noted Index of Cases, All India Point Noted Index of Overruled and Reversed Cases, Supreme Court Reform Citations, etc. A researcher should also know the available sources, foreign statutes, law reports for comparative study. One may get such foreign materials relating to countries like Australian, Canada, UK, and USA. The interpretation and analysis of cases are mainly focused on the question of fact, particularly criminal trial. In doctrinal research, fact analysis is many important. From the cases, researcher is also to identify the rationed obiter dicta. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.